back. Tim's sitting in for Mark again. Yeah. This is for those who are wondering why the show is delayed this week. Unforeseen scheduling issue earlier in the week, which I'll let Mark address next week. Mark's life.
It's always Mark's fault.
It's always Mark's fault. Mark.
We decided that years ago.
Little last-minute whirlwind happened in Mark's life, and then on top of that, we all had gigs, and you had Film Week.
Yes.
How was Film Week?
Film Week was a lot of fun. Pretty good.
It was a good show. I listened.
The movies this week. What are you going to do? Sausage Party.
Yeah.
Which again, I as I said yesterday on the show. It's vulgar and tacky and very Rogan-esque in that way, but has a little something going on underneath.
Right.
Still, it surprises me that it takes 5 story by and screenplay by guys, all together.
Yeah.
To spit out a whole bunch of sex jokes, sausage and bun jokes.
Yeah.
Like, really, 5 of you to do this. Really, okay, whatever.
Well. We also had some interesting stuff happen industry-wide this week. That open letter. Did you read that open letter to Kevin Sugihara?
Lay it out for the folks.
Okay, so an unnamed individual who used a pseudonym of a character from Big Trouble in Little China posted an online open letter to Kevin Sugihara, which started with a criticism of Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. But then dovetailed into a revelation that this individual used to be a Warner Brothers employee, and the way that people were laid off, and the way they were treated, and the way that Warner Brothers is treating its properties and its people, and it was just a dagger in the heart, saying you are an incompetent boob, you're an incompetent studio, and the people who should be losing their jobs, like Zack Snyder, are the ones that keep getting promoted and keep getting
another
more
shot
work.
and another shot.
Whereas the people who have to make their mortgage payments, they're the ones that are taking the brunt of your mistakes. And when you lose money, they're the ones that you're forcing to absorb the shock of your bad decisions. Anyway,
which is all literally factually true.
It is. Well, we both know people at Warner Brothers, and we went through that period of the layoffs, wondering, oh my gosh, are my friends going to be unemployed? Because all the studios have gone through layoffs: Disney, Universal, Sony. Fox. There have been layoffs at all of them because everyone tried to adapt to the downturn in the DVD market and upturn in streaming, and we know a lot of people that lost their jobs still haven't sort of landed on their feet. But Warner Brothers went through several rounds that were especially brutal, and I remember seeing those Facebook posts from people saying, "Hey, I'm still here," and you just kind of breathe a sigh of relief because these are our friends. We've known them for years. Yeah. But Warner Brothers has been particularly brutal, and boy, I think that said things that a lot of us have been thinking, but in a really devastating insider kind of way. So
it's direct and sharp, but as I said before, actually factually true. Look, when a studio does well, when they pick the hits, the studio heads, the studio brass, they all get the benefit. Yep. They're geniuses. And the stories are written. When things go south and they start cutting, it never happens at the top.
No.
Every blue moon, a studio head will change chairs.
Yeah.
But in reality, no studio head ever really gets fired. They get a production deal.
And Warner Brothers, and we'll wait and see how this story develops, but Warner Brothers has been unique for years in the sense that unlike other studios, which will send somebody out when there's a regime change, they send someone out to pasture and bring in fresh blood. Warner Brothers has never done that. There's always been this musical chairs inside, promoting from within, preserving the culture. It's really they're the only studio that has not really gone through that upheaval of throwing somebody out and bringing in all entirely new fresh blood.
And they really haven't had actual creative studio heads at Warner Brothers for a very, very long time. Creative studio heads, not guys with MBAs, not guys with law degrees, not accountants or CPAs, but
guys
actual
with producing experience.
Filmmakers.
True, very true. Well, we're going to start off. I got a big old pile of anime that's built up over a few weeks. I want to go through a lot of this stuff real quickly, and Tim has very graciously sat in here kind of last minute, so I'm going to let Tim take a breather, and while I blow through some of these. There is a couple interesting ones here from the Sentai line, which of course is released by Section 23. One of them is called Trinity 7. This is for lascivious men who just like those cute pixie, really hot pants wearing anime girls, and I know there are a lot of you. This thing is pretty blue, I gotta be honest. It's about 7 women, and they're all kind of like sorceresses, and it's another fantastical. It's kind of like Bewitched times 7 with a lot of skin. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now okay. I want to see it.
Trinity 7, and they're bad too. They're tough, these girls. And then we also have Punchline, the complete collection, 12 episodes on 2 discs. This is one of those wacky anime comedies that kind of it's also very, very blue. A lot of skin, a lot of underwear, but also has a lot of the weird humor that these things don't. It doesn't necessarily transfer over. But it's all kind of action-oriented and female hero stuff. It's just a little wackier and goofier, and that's called Punchline. If you don't get the humor, you're probably going to miss about half of what's going on here. I got another one from Sentai, which I actually thought was pretty good. This is, again, female-oriented, but a lot less lascivious. This is Wake Up Girls, complete collection. Actually, kind of fun. Translates over much, much better. This is kind of the one of those teen girl things. So, considering that I actually found it to be interesting, tells you something, because I'm not a teenage girl, Japanese or American, but I actually found it sort of entertaining. The humor translates. It's good. It's a lot of fun. So that is Wake Up Girls. Japanese schoolgirls always good for something. I'm
being very quiet here because when I get into discussions of Japanese schoolgirls, it's very easy for me to go off the rails. It all becomes a problem, so I'm just going to sit here and let most of this play out in my head.
This one is from much, much younger set. This is from the Anime Elements line of Nozomi. And this is called Super Gals, the complete collection. And Tim, what do you think about that?
That is explosive. Is what that is.
The artwork on the cover tells you everything you need to know. They're just really brightly dressed girls with big eyes and big smiles, and scarves and really cute shoes and lots of sparklies and jumping all over the place.
It's very 80s.
It's very 80s. It's very girly girl. It's basically about sweet little teenage girly girls who are really tough. And they can shop and they can kick butt, and they're really awesome. But they mostly shop. 52 episodes of Super Gals. Love to see that done live action someday. A little more onto the hero line, the heroic line of things. Let me get in here. Funimation always takes us into some interesting areas. Funimation has Guilty Crown, which is beautiful animation. Absolutely fantastic. This is some of the most interesting stuff I've seen in a long time. This is the same director who did Death Note and Attack on Titan, so you know that it's going to have really, really intense, very colorful, highly detailed animation. The artwork really, really just through the roof. This is, part of the new Fuji TV Noit Anime animation block. For those of you that know what that is, I hope that means something, because it means absolutely nothing to me, because I don't get Japanese television. But anyway, it is. It's all kind of based around an event centered after a meteorite hits Japan and releases this virus, and then you get into this really, really fascinating, fantastical kind of romance and action after that. Anyway, Guilty Crown, gorgeous, gorgeous animation, really first rate. After War Gundam X. More of the Gundam, it just never goes away. This is, this takes place in a future beyond some other previous Gundams. This is episodes 20 through 39 of this series, and it's Gundam. I can't introduce you to the Gundam world if you don't know it. Complete collection of Hatenku Yugi, which is also really, really gorgeous animation. Can't say that I really quite got into the world here. This is 10 episodes on 2 discs from Sentai. Universal also has a hand in this. I'm not quite sure how, but it's the fantastic soap opera story here doesn't quite work for me. Feels a little bit forced and a little confusing, but the artwork is really, really top notch. I just wish that were on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, it's not. Tokyo Ghoul is a big deal these days. Tokyo Ghoul A. This is season 2. and also really, really impressive animation. A little bit ghoulish, as you would guess from the title, but it works. And let's see, go through some of the rest of this. Here's one that we really have to mention. This is a bit of a big deal. This comes to us from Shmimpics, and it is Belladonna of Sadness. Belladonna of Sadness is a legendary Japanese anime, but it's not really anime in its style. We should call it just straight up Japanese animation. It was the last film in a trilogy called the Anorama Trilogy, and the original artist of this was Osamu Tezuka and his partner Eiichi Yamamoto, who was one of the creators of Astro Boy.
Yeah.
And it's very adult. It's very surreal and fantastical and like very kind of 1960s, 70s style. This is from 1973, so it's got a real groovy feel to it. You can tell this is from the 70s. It's got all kinds of 60s, 70s residue all over it. And it certainly has kind of it fits in there with other animated films from the period that are very psychedelic, like Yellow Submarine, and it's got that kind of vibe to it. So if you like that stuff, definitely check it out. But it's very, very adult. It's about it's not for the faint of heart. It begins with a rape, and there's a pact with the devil, and there's a whole lot of other really, really trippy stuff in this. But this is a gorgeous Blu-ray taken from a 4K restoration from the original elements. A great essay from Dennis Bartok, who is, of course, a god of film programming and archival programming here in L.A., and a lot of other great extras on it. So definitely worth it for animation buffs. Belladonna of Sadness, but really adult, very grown-up stuff. Don't get it if you're easily shocked or offended. A few other things here. The very popular Renee, episodes 1 through 13 on 2 discs. This is Collection 1 from Sentai as well. That's on Blu-ray. Some other familiar stuff. Children Who Chase Lost Voices, also part of the Sentai collection. This is also really, really great animation. This has won a ton of awards, and this is a re-release. This is worth checking out as well if you haven't seen it previously. More from Funimation. Yurikuma Arashi. I'm never going to pronounce that correctly. More hot girls with guns, saving the world and styling their hair. Lots of fun stuff. It's a girl eat girl world. That's what the tagline says. Yona of the Dawn, Part 2, also from Funimation. More spectacular stuff. Very, very interesting world. A world of fantastical kind of dragons and fantasy and Lord of the Ringsy stuff. Pretty hard to get into if you don't know this world already, which I do not. This is episodes 13 to 24. I was having to play a little bit of catch-up, watched a couple episodes. Enjoy the animation. I guess if you know the world, you'll enjoy it more. Hakuoki, Demon of the Fleeting Blossom, theatrical version, Chapter 1, Wild Dance of Kyoto. That is the complete title of this movie, which is great fantasy samurai stuff. Amazing animation. Really, really great artwork. I'm always amazed at how they do some of this stuff. It's just they do it week in and week out. They do more animation in a week on Japanese television than we do all year on computers. And this is all hand-drawn.
They're all hand-drawn. Large facilities.
Yeah. Some cool fantasy cyberpunk stuff in Cross-Ange, Rondo of Angel and Dragon. This is Sentai. Episodes 1 through 12. This is the first collection on 2 discs, Blu-ray. Basically, cyberpunk cute girls kicking butt in a futuristic dystopia with a little bit of fantasy. Can't get better than that, really. From the Studio Ghibli line, this is a Universal release. Only Yesterday, with voices by Dev Patel and Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley, of course, becoming a really, really big deal, obviously because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But this is from the Studio Ghibli line. This is a nice Studio Ghibli film bought from Isao Takahata, with Hayao Miyazaki obviously overseeing. Takahata, the number 2 guy over there at Ghibli in all these years. Really sweet, very, like most of the Ghibli stuff, it's much more realistic. This is like what you would expect to be a live-action film, right? It's not really fantasy. This is very much Japanese history and sort of dealing with life in the countryside of Japan and growing up and coming of age, and very, very touching, very, very sweet. Great bonus features on here on the making of it and how they cast the American talent, and the voiceover talent is really, really good. And then the last few here. Here's two more from Sentai that I'll just make quick mention of. Gourmet Girl Graffiti, complete collection, 12 episodes and 2 discs, Sentai on Blu-ray. It's more little girl stuff, and it's that Japanese humor that I don't quite get. More Gundam Build Fighters. It's, the whole Gundam thing, the suits and the shooting and the flying and the color and the, it's Gundam, whatever. If you're not into Gundam, don't start now. It's a lifetime devoted to getting into all that stuff. And then the last two, Lucky Star, complete series, weird animation. These girls look tweaked. I can't really say I enjoy this. This is a Blu-ray DVD combo set. It's that really extreme stuff. It's like everybody's a Pokemon. Not really, but they look like it. Everybody has they look like they're all mutated from Pikachu genes.
Yeah,
it's tweaked.
And like meth addicts. Like little...
And then the last one, which is by far the most interesting, is Empire of Corpses. The Empire of Corpses Blu-ray DVD combo set with Ultraviolet from Funimation. Really, really, really intriguing, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. This has a lot of potential. This is from the same people who made Attack on Titan, and it's based on a Philip Dick novel, which has been kind of graphic novelized. And the whole idea is about ideas. It centers around there's these undead who are basically working like replicants did in Blade Runner, right? Mm-hmm. Like replicants were created to be the labor class. Here, the undead are the labor class in this weird kind of future. So Empire of Corpses is very Philip K. Dick in that sense that aspect of Blade Runner is sort of the beating heart of this thing. And the animation and the artwork is very different, very non-anime-like, very intriguing. A lot of work and conceptual effort really went into this, and a few interesting extras as well. And it's got Ultraviolet, so that's worth something.
That I might have to check out.
Definitely cool. So that is our anime blitz for the week. By the way, also should let everybody know that because we are kind of in between weeks as a result of the drama in Mark Kaiser's life, there will be no show this coming week, and then it will be our next new show with Mark's return once again. His second return will be the week of Tuesday the 23rd. So Tuesday the 23rd, sometime on the 22nd, 23rd, that's when the next show will go live after this one. So this is going to kind of be an interim double show.
Programming notes.
Programming notes. Yeah. All right, Tim, we got some new movies.
Yeah.
What cool new movies do we have?
Let's start with this is the
yeah.
new
You know what? That's because
I actually dug this movie. Did you see this
too.
one for the show?
And I did.
It's called Raiders. We're talking about the documentary Raiders, yes. or the doc about the film Raiders of the Lost Ark. That these young men, when they were children,
it's surreal. These kids made that fan film.
They set out to shoot every shot of this film. Now that's all interesting in and of itself, but the machinations that these people went through, these young men went through over the course of the next decade and a half, much more interesting than the sort of idea of them making those films. Just sort of making that film shot by. It's a really, really interesting story here. I don't know what it speaks to, but I think it speaks to something in all of our lives about how we can become obsessed with things.
Yep.
And about how we let these things wheedle their way into our lives and take over our lives while our lives are happening all around us all the time. Your life is happening anyway. It's really, really interesting. This is from Draft House Films. A lot of interesting stuff here. 16-page booklet, audio commentaries featuring these directors. You want to hear from these guys. This is why you want to hear from these guys. They're very reflective now. Yeah. You look at them.
Well, there's a lot of drama in their lives and relationships, and women came between them, and I mean they're nerds, but yet they went through all of those same weird little. It's almost like all of Hollywood's worst vices impinged on them as they were trying to make their own version of a Hollywood movie.
It's like Hollywood will happen to you if you set foot into that realm, no matter what.
True.
So that's pretty good draft. So the film is called Raiders, the story of the greatest fan film ever made. Then we got Meet the Blacks. This is a Mike Epps film. Came out a while ago. It's one of those sort of spoof movies. Making fun of the sort of Purge movies, right? So this black family moves into Beverly Hills on the night of the 24-hour Purge, and all kinds of wacky things occur. Actually, this is kind of fun. I saw this for the show, too. Let's see. HD Ultraviolet.
The Angry Birds movie. on 4K Ultra HD so that you can actually see with even greater detail how bad and unnecessary this movie was. You know what? I am one of those people who logged somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 years worth of wasted life playing Angry Birds
Never played
games.
it, not once.
You know what? I played it once, and I kid you not, it was like a heroin. Yeah. Next thing I knew, I was lying on my back in a basement in a den with a bunch of other people. I didn't know where I'd been for the last year and a half. I had to go to 12-step and rehab. It was horrible. They made me give up my phone. It was really painful. The Angry Birds movie attempts to take the dynamic of the Angry Birds games, specifically the original Angry Bird game, which is, you know, you got these flightless birds that live on an island, and a bunch of pigs show up and try to steal their eggs, and then the birds have to, you know, organize to get the eggs back. It's the dumbest thing in the world. That whole concept does not translate to movies. There's an opening here, which is about 6 minutes long, 6-7 minutes long, the kind of pre-credit opening, which is wonderful, and it raises your hopes and your expectations, and then this thing just crashes and burns as soon as the dialogue happens.
What does it look like? What does the animation look like?
It's fine. It's okay. It's not great.
We're CG, though, right?
It's CG. It's all CG. This is 4K. I guess they're hoping that the movie's failure to perform will somehow translate into people wanting to see it on 4K on their TVs, but I just don't see it.
What's the point of the Angry Birds scenario if you're not actually playing the game? I mean, if you're playing the game, okay,
exactly.
But if you're not playing the game,
it's the same with it's the same with any other video game that they make a movie of. You're something where the entire joy of the experience is interactive is now supposed to be equally or more joyful without your ability to interact at all.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but I guess that's how they justify the decisions. In any case, this thing is a very interesting combo pack. It includes not only a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, but also a Blu-ray 3D and a regular Blu-ray, and you get the ultraviolet code. I have not yet seen a 4K release that packed all of that into one set. 4K, Blu-ray 3D, Blu-ray, and ultraviolet. The only thing it's missing is a DVD. It really doesn't benefit from any of this. I got to be honest. I think this is pure marketing, but maybe if you just want something to keep the kids busy, it's fine. Also, there's a Cinderella story if the shoe fits. Brand new movie from Warner, which follows on this whole Cinderella story thing, which I don't really quite get, but a lot of people are obviously making money off of this, and most notably Michelle Johnston, who produced it and directed it. And, if you follow this, it's like this modern-day Cinderella thing that's a little bit Grease and a little bit Disney Channel, and it's a lot of tween appeal, and I'm not a tween. I don't really get it, but it does certainly make me terrified about what my daughter might want to watch in another decade. So hopefully this thing runs its course over the next decade.
Let's see, what do I got over here? I got one of those spring break movies. It's called Sundown. This is about a bunch of kids in a high school. They're going to go to Mexico to Boulevard or whatever. They try to hook up with their high school crushes, and one of the kind of things. Look, the point of this movie, other than girls in bikinis, is the music. The executive music producer is Paul Oakenfold, and DJ Steve Aoki pops up in this thing a whole bunch of times. So that's digital ultraviolet. You can just watch it any place. It's rated R. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I don't know. When we were kids, what would this have been? Would this have been? Well, there's a movie called Spring Breakers, as I recall.
Yeah, but when we were younger, we had things like Joysticks and Hot Dog the movie, and it was
Hot Dog with the Scheme.
Yeah, it was a lot more tongue in cheek. Like even Fast Times. The Spring Break and sex comedy movies, they kind of knew they were stupid, and they knew the people who were Porky's, right?
Porky's.
They were stupid. They knew that the people watching them were stupid, so they sort of reveled in their stupidity and their obnoxiousness. These try to be a little bit more
edgier.
Yeah, they take themselves a little too seriously.
I don't know if you watched this one, but I did actually watch this.
The JJ thing.
The JJ thing.
Yeah,
with
I did not.
James Franco, Stephen King adaptation, 11/22/63. That's the date that, of course, President Kennedy was assassinated. This is a J.J. Abrams adapted Stephen King thing for television. It's a series starring James Franco, a guy who can time travel. It's interesting in that way. He can travel in time and come back to the present day, right?
Yeah.
But he can only travel in time to one specific day, a couple of weeks before the Kennedy assassination. And he does it several times to try to work his way through to stopping that assassination. It ends up being a love story.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You can't stop Kennedy assassination anymore. Which is interesting. And they notice, I've never been a big Stephen King guy. You know, particularly the sort of monsters, you know, big spiders in the sewer kind of Stephen King and all that kind of guy. Yeah. But this is a neat little story here because it's not really at all about trying to stop the assassination of President Kennedy. It's not about, it's about letting go.
I know what you're saying. It's not about stopping Kennedy assassination. It's about stopping Bones from saving Edith Keeler as she's trying to cross the street so that Kennedy will
Joan
die.
Collins, she was so hot in that episode. Western called Trade It. I don't know, modern day Westerns. I don't know about modern day Westerns. This is Trace Atkins and Michael Pare. Remember Michael Pare?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man.
Eddie and the Cruisers and the Philadelphia Experiment.
Man. I just think about him all the time.
Some friends of mine went to law school with his wife.
Really?
Yeah, I remember that. It was very, very funny. That when they said, "Yeah, Michael Pare's wife is in our class in law school."
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. This is a sort of Sergio Leone looking thing, combined with a sort of Liam Neeson Taken kind of thing. You know, the Searchers, that kind of thing. So you know, interesting movie. Bonus. You got a couple deleted scenes, and you got a commentary track on this thing. And then, did you talk about this anime, Red Sonja?
No, that's it's it's not really anime per se. It's because it's Red Sonja. So
that's right. It's true. It's not anime. Yeah, but animation.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's it makes you forget about Bridget Nielsen and that whole horrible '80s take on the character. And it kind of reconnects you to the comic book origins, and it's nice.
Red Sonja, because I didn't follow that much when I was a kid, so that's an interesting sort of thing there. Special featurette featuring brand new interviews with Gail Simone as well as other members of the cast.
Yeah, cool new animated Red Sonja. And then 3 here. Careful What You Wish For is Nick Jonas trying to sort of bone up as a dramatic actor and follow in the footsteps of people
Zac
like
Efron,
and all those guys.
Whoever it might be.
Yeah. Careful What You Wish For is kind of, it wants to be sort of thrillery and noirish. The idea here being that you got this kid who's going to go to college and winds up having an affair with the wife of this investment banker played by Dermot Mulroney. And then all kinds of nasty, noirish, twisty stuff happens, and Paul Sorvino shows up to make it feel really, really heavy.
I can remember a time when if a pop star, as big as a pop star as Jonas there is, made a movie, it was a big deal. Britney Spears' first movie.
Yeah.
Was like this really major deal.
Yeah.
Now, not so much.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, which is probably a good thing, but and it goes back forever. We go back much further with that.
Even in the 70s, yeah, for sure. No, I mean, the funny thing here is that, Paul Sorvino is clearly in this movie as like a sign to say to the audience, now we're serious. Like, anytime Paul Sorvino shows up in a movie, it's like, ooh, now we're, all right. All bets are off. Paul Sorvino's on the screen. Usually with a cigar, right?
Yeah.
Like in Goodfellas, that cigar is the continuity is all over the map.
Playing the most mobbed up guy.
That's seriously, when you watch Goodfellas, Sorvino's cigar sometimes they'll cut to the reverse, it's in his mouth, and then you cut back to another angle, and it's in between his fingers. There's no continuity whatsoever. It's all over the map.
I just did a DIY for off-ramps where our continuity is hysterical.
Yeah. And then we got The Binding, Fear What You Believe. Those taglines always just rip me up. What does that mean, fear what you believe?
What does that mean?
It's just, anyway. So this is one of those supernatural thriller/horror films, kind of in the Polanski vein. Lots of Catholic symbolism and imagery, and it's iconography. No names in this thing. Don't really need to be. This is from Scream Factory, Shout Factory subsidiary. You know what? The scares are good. The cast is decent. I mean, it's this thing didn't cost much, so it'll probably be perfectly fine. Director Gus Krieger certainly has some skills, so I mean, I look forward to seeing what he does next. It's not bad, not great. It's perfectly fine, decent genre entry. And then here, wrapping out our new films. I think this is the last.
I got a couple over here.
Yeah, those are docs. So we'll.
Those are doc, okay.
We'll move into the docs here in a second. So wrapping out the new films this week is a really weird, strange thing. A Hologram for the King with Tom Hanks. This is the most unfortunate and weird failure, perhaps of Tom Hanks' career, and certainly of Tom Tickver's career. Great German director Tom Tykwer directed this.
Princess and the Warrior.
Based on a novel with Tom Hanks. And this is building off of their relationship from Cloud Atlas, right, where Tom Hanks was really pushing it, playing way too many roles. And you would think, Tom Tykwer, Tom Hanks, amazing. And then as soon as this thing starts off with a cover of... Talking Heads. Mm-hmm. This is not my beautiful house, and Tom Hanks is doing the lyrics, and there's all this CGI, and it's like this weird dreamlike sequence. Mm-hmm. You immediately know, okay, this is this is not right. Mm-hmm. And what's going on here is Tom Hanks is a businessman who's gone to Saudi Arabia to do some kind of a holographic business presentation for the King of Saudi Arabia to hopefully make a sale of this communication technology that his company has manufactured. If I've lost you with that narration, with that description, then the movie will lose you as well, because that's just the weirdest. That makes no sense. Why would you make a movie about that? Why would anybody want to? Well, what it really is, it's a fish out of water story. Tom Hanks is this guy who needs money, and he's got a grown daughter and a estranged wife, and all these family issues and money issues, and he's just trying to make a late life go of things. And he's a salesman, and the only thing standing between it are the eccentricities of Saudi Arabia, but public beheadings and a crazy driver guy who drives him everywhere, who's having an affair with the wife of some guy that he knows, and then there's this Saudi Arabian doctor who's played by an Indian actress, by the way. Sarita Chowdhury plays the part, so that makes no sense. And then there's a bit of a romance with her, and none of this stuff hangs together. But it's supposed to be about a man's spiritual discovery in a strange land, and the fact that it's Saudi Arabia, which is politically very loaded in this day and age, just kind of undermines everything. A few little jokes with the Saudi locals about, hey, I think I'm CIA, those kind of fall on like a lead brick. It's just a strange, weird, peculiar movie. It's not bad. It just kind of doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know what it wants to do. And there's a special feature here on the adaptation, how they went from the novel to the movie, which makes you wonder even more, why would they do this? But in any case, it's on Blu-ray. It's got ultraviolet, and it's probably worth a look if you're a Tom Hanks fan. It's a very strange and unusual movie.
Where are we going to move to those documentaries?
Let's hit some docs. Let's start off. You know what? The costumer doc. Let's talk about that for a second.
Women he's
undressed. Because just to make a quick mention of that, I was supposed to have an interview with Gillian Armstrong, who directed this, the amazing director, the Australian director of Little Women and
Oscar and Lucinda,
Mrs. Soulful, all kinds of great movies. She's just amazing. I did a few minutes with her on the phone. She was in Australia. It was a dodgy situation technically as to whether or not the conversation would record. It did not, unfortunately. But I will tell you, she is an amazing lady. She's a wonderful lady. She's 65 now and as youthful as she's ever been. And it's a really, really great doc, a great subject. This is about Hollywood costume designer Ori Kelly, who did so many of the most amazing movies that you just cannot believe. I mean, Casablanca and on and on and on. It's just there's no end to it. One of the legendary costume designers of all time. And all of that is in here. He, won numerous Oscars, costumed all the best. But it's also interesting that it talks about being a gay man at a time in Hollywood when certainly everybody knew, but then nobody wanted anybody else to know publicly. And how that dovetails with his career and his relationships. Very interesting stuff with, Cary Grant, his relationship with Cary Grant. A lot of interesting stuff here. It's just a great snapshot of a man of Hollywood at a particular point in time. And Gillian Armstrong was really just what she was telling me was just what a great discovery it was for her, because
an interesting diversion for her.
It really is.
Not that she hasn't made other documentaries, but
but she knew nothing about him as well. It was a journey of discovery for her as well. So I wish I had that interview. Unfortunately, I don't. But it was a wonderful filmmaker, a wonderful film, and definitely worth exploring.
This is an interesting doc. Homeless. This is a single documentary made by a guy named Greg Dunsweiler. Greg Dunsweiler. He's the primary person in it. He's a person who is about to himself become homeless. Because of the circumstances that he's in. So what he sets about doing is recording the circumstances that will likely bring him to homelessness. And what we see in watching this is exactly what it says in the tagline of this film. It can happen to anyone. If you think that you simply are not a person that this can, you walk down the street, you see these people. Make no mistake, this can happen to you, and that's what he tracks in this very, very sort of interesting film. Which, ironically, we visit a lot of homeless camps and things like that, and ironically, it's this film that probably kept him from becoming homeless.
Very cool.
It's on the Cinema Libre.
Fascinating. Yeah. I got a trio of docs right here that I will cut through as quickly as possible. One, on both DVD and on Blu-ray, is Out of Time, Saving the DeLorean Time Machine.
From the movie.
Obviously, that should tell you Out of Time, DeLorean. This is from Virgil Films. You should know that is all about Back to the Future. But here's the thing. The DeLorean from the film, like they often do with great things in great movies, nobody paid attention to it. It was like, why bother? It's a thing. It's done. It's a prop, you know. And this is all about how Bob Gale, who co-wrote and produced Back to the Future, got together with Universal Studios, and basically what they did to, you know, resurrect the life of that DeLorean from the movie, so that it would not, you know, end up on the junk heap of history, literally and figuratively. Just wasn't being cared for. So it's actually really cool. There's an audio commentary here, deleted scenes, stuff from the world premiere, stuff, a little featurette from the Peterson Audio Museum, which over here on Wilshire, which they just restored and did a great thing. Anyway, it's basically a car restoration movie. And it's, you know, I recommend it on Blu-ray because you really get to appreciate the detail of what goes into restoring a car. It is amazing. It is beautiful, and it's, you know, I remember when DeLoreans were new and they were all over the road.
That stainless steel, they still have a very modern look to them.
Yes, they do.
DeLoreans were a mess, by the way. They had a fuel injection system that was perfectly ludicrous.
And a CEO who you know,
well, you know, you do what you got to do.
Yeah. And then we also have Spring and Arnaud, Art, Love, Mortality. This is a really, really cool documentary about a fascinating love story between two artists, Arnaud Maggs, who's 85, and Spring Hurlbut, who's 60. Maggs is a photographer. Hurlbut is also an artist, and it's essentially about how their love story manifests itself through their joint arts, their joint artistic efforts, and there's almost no other way to describe it. It's a really, really, really fascinating film. It's a fascinating look at art and how two people express themselves both to the world and to each other. And it's just unique in just a fascinating and compelling way. Its First Run Features released this, and just an absolutely beautiful and engaging documentary on so many levels. And then lastly, also from First Run Features, fantastic doc here, The Professor, Tai Chi's Journey West. Director of this should be doing a lot of other really great stuff. Barry Strugatz, really, really good work. This is essentially about Cheng Man Ching, who is a Tai Chi master, one of the legendary Tai Chi masters, who is essentially the man responsible for bringing Tai Chi to the West in the 1960s. And this, you know, with archival footage and more recent footage and interviews and, you know, everything that you need in a documentary of this sort, this is the story of how Tai Chi came out of China and became kind of a Western phenomenon, which it continues to be to this day. It's still not quite what it is, obviously, in Asia. It's only 72 minutes long, so this thing just blows through this history at a brisk pace, but it's really fascinating. And you know, we see people doing Tai Chi every once in a while here, but I remember when we were in Hong Kong in '97, which was right after it's when I did my three bucket list items. We went to the 50th anniversary Cannes Film Festival, where my wife had worked on the Wim Wenders film, and then we went to Hong Kong before the handover, and then came home and flew all the way around the globe. So I got 3 bucket lists out of the way. But when you're in Hong Kong and you wake up in the morning and you walk out into the park, it's like old people just doing Tai Chi every day, every morning. I mean, it's part of the culture. You know, it's just such a natural and accepted thing. It's like people jogging here.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to see how that, you know, emerges from one culture and is absorbed into another. Really great movie. I
got the last couple of docs here. Humpback Whales, which is narrated by Ewan McGregor. This is a Greg McGilvery film. I used to cover all of those films back in the day. They do all those large format IMAX films about nature, under the ocean, above the polar ice cap, that kind of stuff. This one is about humpback whales. It has some absolutely stunning photography in it. 4K IMAX. There's a making of featurette that comes with that. Then we have comics beyond the comic book pages. This is a neat little doc about the comic book industry as told by the creators of the comics. So, obviously you got your Stan Lee and all of those kind of guys in there. But, anybody who ever played a comic book hero back in the old days or designed or wrote, all of these people talking about what they do and why they did it and the way it works and that kind of stuff. Kino Lorber puts this out. And then this is not a documentary, but this is one of the animations, Wade, the Big Friendly Giant. I do not remember this on television.
I don't either, and I don't think anyone's going to remember the Spielberg film either.
and obviously, that one of the reasons why they rushed to put this out. Really weird the way that Spielberg film hit the wall.
It's the whole summer has been weird in that regard, and Suicide Squad does, as we were talking about at the top of the show, kind of feels like the last straw. Like that was the one everybody was hoping would somehow redeem the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when an X-Men film fails and Batman versus Superman fails. I mean,
the Star Trek movie was so-so. I mean, it did better financially, but people aren't excited about it. It's not like like the Star Wars film.
Ghostbusters is going to lose $70 million. Yeah. I mean, it's turning into like the big bust summer.
I don't see Sausage Party doing that well this weekend. Yeah. I mean, it'll probably win the box office. The thing of it is, nothing has legs. Nothing has a second week.
Except Finding Dory. Finding Dory is the one. Well,
Finding Dory. How far are we going to go? We're going to go back to Zootopia.
I mean, we can say those two animated films have, but
if you're talking about legit summer, this has been a tough one.
Yeah. It has. And then before we get into classic films here, we are covering stuff from WWE again. We kind of disconnected from them for a little bit, but we're back on track. And for wrestling fans, there's some stuff that's been released recently. I'll make quick mention of Eric Bischoff, sports entertainment's most controversial figure. If you're into wrestling, you know who Eric Bischoff is, and he is indeed very, very controversial. But you know what? He just he gets under everybody's skin. He gets under the skin of people at home and people in wrestling. He's a gadfly guy, and this is on Blu-ray. It's all about Eric Bischoff. That's obviously a bone to people who actually know who he is. The Scott Hall story, another big deal in wrestling. This is, I mean, lots of steroids there. I guess that'll get you far. That's on Blu-ray, and then these are the ones that are probably more straight up for traditional wrestling fans. U.S. Championship, Legacy of Greatness. This goes, all the way through a lot of legendary figures, and Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper.
Yeah, those are my guys. Those are my guys.
Now you reach back. John Cena, obviously, more recent figures. And then straight out of Dudleyville, the legacy of the Dudley Boys. Pretty funny, actually. Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley. A lot of really very entertaining, funny characters in the world of wrestling, and this, even for people who think wrestling is like fake, I guarantee you, it's not fake. It's real, man. It's totally legit, up and straight up. These guys prove it. And I hope people know I'm being tongue in cheek there. Tim, let's rock the classic film stuff here.
That wonderful pioneers of African American cinema.
Fortuitous that you are here because you are so more schooled on this than anybody else.
What's wacky about this is I'm sitting here, the black dude. You're sitting there, the white dude. I begged Kino.
I know.
For this set, so I could talk about it. Who did they send it to you?
Send it to
me.
I'm
sorry, it's because I'm black. That's why they did it. Martin Scorsese says
this was crowdfunded.
This was a crowdfunding, which you told me about, and I did not know about. They raised close to $60,000 to do this. It involves Southern Methodist University. So this is a wonderful documentary set that actually comes with a wonderful little booklet as well, featuring most of the most important cinema coming out of the black community from the beginning of cinema, 1895, straight through Oscar B. Shaw and Spencer Williams and all of these guys.
And these are all figures that most people don't know about. I mean, this is kind of a hidden history.
Well, one of the things that I always like to talk about when it comes to, obviously in the last few years we've had this issue in Hollywood, Oscar's so white,
right.
Diversity in terms of gender and race in Hollywood television and movies. This has been a very important subject. It has actually caused the Academy to make changes in what it does.
Most of which I think are positive changes. I think some of them were sort of knee-jerk overreactions in the moment, where they like just they didn't want the bad PR, so they kind of did something hasty, and they've corrected most of the overreaction. I think they're doing is good.
And of course, anything that the Academy does will only address half of the problem, because the other half of the problem exists in the studio suites. Now, which brings me around to my point about this. These are films fundamentally made by black folks from, like I said, the 1890s or early 1900s through the middle 50s, early 60s. In studios that were owned and run by black folks,
which nobody knows about. It's amazing.
There's a long history of black folks making films for themselves and about the black community that they actually own. Oscar Micheaux and Spencer Williams, so many others. The Blood of Jesus in this set. There's several films in this set, more than we can actually go through, dating all the way back to about 1915 or so. 2 nights of vaudeville, starring everyone from Herb Jeffries to Paul Robeson to Spencer Williams, of course, and films made by filmmakers, like I said, who you've probably never heard of but ought to know, including filmmakers who did pioneering things in the technical art of cinema as well, which is a very important thing to talk about. So crowdfunding, I see this as a really a sort of a landmark little situation.
It is, and I hope that this succeeds in a way that it enables more stuff like this, because there are all kinds of great little nooks and crannies to American film history that get lost. Poverty Row. Oh yeah. The history of the Poverty Row movies is like. I mean, that's the. I wonder how many of those even are being preserved.
You could find the same thing in women's cinema. Most people, Alice Guy Blaché. Yeah. We have never heard of her. This is a woman who had a studio, her own studio, in New Jersey. 2 years before D.W. Griffith. Yep. Actually, so we can go into a whole lot of this stuff. Chicago, a lot of the filmmakers who were making films and owned studios that are reflected in this set, pioneers of African American cinema is the name of the set, folks, worked out of Chicago in the early 1900s. If you go to State Street in Chicago, you can still find some of the buildings where they actually made these films, including Birth of a Race, which is a very interesting sort of film that didn't come off. It was supposed to be a response to Birth of a Nation. It's spoken to a little bit in the set. Our colleague Ray Green did the sort of discussion of that entire fiasco and what happened there. So interesting stuff. Pioneers for African American Cinema from Kino Lorber. Excellent 5-disc collection.
My father actually acted in one silent film.
Really?
Yep, he did. And I have, and it's funny because I talked to Kevin Brownlow years ago. Brownlow's one of the godfathers of silent film archivism. And I mentioned it to him, and I sent him all, I have a review of it, a clipping from 1918, 1919. And he said, I'll see what I can do. And he said, I can't find anything on this, but doesn't mean it won't turn up at some point.
Yeah, so that's the thing about that stuff. You never know.
It was an independently produced thing.
How old would he have been?
Oh, let's see. He would have been...
That's the middle of the silent era.
Yeah, he would have been, about 26, 27.
About 26, that age.
27.
Oh, man, we got to find that.
I know. One day. It's in somebody's basement, I'm sure. Anyway, got a bunch here from Olive. Olive has released a kind of an incredible onslaught of films over the last few weeks. So let me go through this as fast as I can, just to let you know that all on Blu-ray, all of them... Most of them really, really worth paying attention to. From 1934, Neath the Arizona Skies. That is Neath, not beneath, but Neath with an apostrophe.
A southern colloquialism.
A southern colloquialism. One of John Wayne's earliest films. 1934, this is before he even made Stagecoach. This is early John Wayne, early Western with Yakima Canutt in it as well. And it is, it's just an early, low-budget Western, but you see a lot of talent really, really coming of age here. It's a fun film. The Outsider, really interesting film from 1980. Really fascinating to me that Olive grabbed this, because this is not a terribly well-known film. Based on a novel called The Heritage of Michael Flaherty. This is a 1980 film, which it's fictional, but it really deals with a lot of issues that were very, very legit at the time. Basically about a Vietnam vet comes home and decides that in order to sort of have, add meaning to his life, he goes to Ireland to, basically join the cause of the IRA in fighting the British. Bring some of that little Vietnam moxie and keep the fight going, and winds up being very disillusioned as a result.
It's an interesting thing because we were of a certain age during that time, and that was the thing that actually went on during that time, right? You had these Vietnam vets coming back here. They would face all of this ugliness here, right?
Yep.
In Ireland, the IRA guys were heroes.
Yeah.
So they would, particularly if they had any sort of a connection, the thinnest sort of Irish connection, they would go there, take all their skills, and do what was actually some pretty heinous stuff.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they were heroes there while they were goats here.
Yeah.
In the middle sort of 1970s.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Another Western. This one's from 1956. This is James Arness, Gun the Man Down. This is directed by Andrew V. McLaughlin, who was one of those workaday guys who just made tons and tons of Westerns, and they're all a lot of fun. They're all immensely watchable. And you know what? James Arness, he's not John Wayne, but he's still James Arness, and he's a lot of fun, and he's darn good, and he's Marshall Matt Dillon, and he's Zeb McCain, and he's, so many great figures from great Westerns on TV. Harry Carey Jr. also shows up in this as a lawman, which is a lot of other people from other Westerns. It's just a good, solid Western, 1956. Gun the Man Down. A couple of gangster films here of different types. Hoodlum, with Lawrence Fishburne, Tim Roth, and Vanessa Williams.
I did the junket for that movie.
This, you know what? There was a whole streak of films around the time that Bugsy was released.
Yeah.
And there was Hoodlum, and there was this, and there was
you
Gangsters.
had Rage in Harlem.
And they were all dealing with the same figures. It was, a little bit of Bugsy, a little Lucky Luciano.
They would
we had like 5 or 6 different actors who played each of these parts over about a 3.5 year period.
Yeah, that's the sort of early, middle 90s,
Yeah, anyway. You know what? This one's not bad. I remember thinking it was junk at the time I saw it. Andy Garcia playing Lucky Luciano. I was like, you're Cuban. It makes no sense at all. But you know what? In hindsight, I'm a little nostalgic for it.
Was that Bill Duke?
It was Bill Duke.
Bill Duke, yeah.
Bill Duke.
Yeah.
Bill Duke, when he had that moment in his directing career, and Rage in Harlem was another one that he did.
Yeah, Deep Cover.
Bill Duke should still be directing stuff like this.
He's a guy, Bill Duke.
He's got chops. He's got chops, Bill Duke, and good actor too. Let's not forget
American Gigolo.
Predator.
Oh, and Predator, yeah.
Predator. He was a scary dude in Predator. And then we have Gang Related with James Belushi and Tupac Shakur.
Was that Tupac's? That's Tupac's last film, right? Either last or second to last.
My wife worked on a Tupac Shakur film at one point, and I remember the humor, the irony coming back from the set, which was, a lot of people were like, Tupac thinks he's a gangster. He sits in his trailer with a .357 Magnum revolver sitting on his lap. Why is he doing that? It's a movie set. No, it has security. Why are you doing that? That was just his whole, the image, and that was his thing.
And you know what? You live a life. Life will eventually come.
And it caught up with him, but still an amazing talent.
That's the thing I want to say as I sit here and poke Tupac. Because I interviewed Tupac, a movie called Juice, about 1990-91. And I talked to this.
And
kid,
this is his final film.
And that is his final film. And so I interviewed him for his final film, for his first film, and in between, and what I saw was the development of an actual actor.
Yeah,
that kid could act, and that's all just a terrible shame. But there you go.
It's a shame. The ratings game, man, is this a blast from the past. Danny DeVito, Rhea Perlman. This is a riot. This thing is so funny. This is completely remastered, a wonderful, wonderful special edition that has a whole bunch of Danny DeVito shorts on it, which are all great and hilarious and weird and funny. This is essentially about a guy who is in the trucking industry and wants to become a Hollywood producer. And it is about how they actually managed to subvert the television rating system. And it is amazing. Danny DeVito directed this. This was his first big move as a director. It's really what got him his filmmaking career and led to things like Throw Mama from the Train and other great movies. And, this is just great. 1984, really, really fun film. A lot of great cameos. It's a cool, culty blast from the past. Robert Townsend in The Meteor Man.
Oh man, I did the junket for that film.
Speaking of superhero movies, this is when Townsend was still trying to sort of keep a career going that had been launched with Hollywood
Shuffle was his. I always confuse him with Keenan Ivory Wayans as a original.
Yeah, well, Townsend was never a great director, but always a very interesting writer. I feel like he should have gotten somebody else to direct some of his scripts so that he could not sort of worry about being in them and behind the camera.
You think about a film like The Five Heartbeats, which was his big film.
Which is a really decent film.
Really decent film.
Yeah.
More of a sort of TV-level quality there. But again, take that material and put it in the hands of, I don't know, in the 1990, whoever would have been the guy in 1990. And Robert's in that film, too. So he's an actor, and you got yourself an Academy Award nominated film there, right?
I agree.
I don't know.
But this is still a fun film. I mean, there's a lot of heart to his movies, and I don't think he's been given enough
credit
for
what Robert was trying to do back in the day was to give the black community images and ideas
that no one else was giving them.
Exactly. So, that's the way to go, Robert.
Another one from the past that they have resurrected over at Olive. Tell Me That You Love Me, Junie Moon. This is a really, really obscure 1969 Otto Preminger movie starring Liza Minnelli and Ken Howard that just has really fallen off the radar. So I have to salute Olive for resurrecting this thing. She basically, this is just one of, Liza Minnelli is such an interesting actress at this point in her career, and this is before she really stormed onto the stage with Cabaret. Cabaret really is what made her. But the movies that she made leading up to that were really interesting, and especially with Otto Preminger directing her, really, really fascinating.
Sort of middle '60s quasi flower child movies.
Yeah, and I mean, just the idea of these outcasts, and that's basically what this is about. This is a kind of it's not like Cuckoo's Nest outcasts. It's not asylums, but these are people who are on the margins of society. I won't give you any of the further details because a lot of that is a nice surprise in the movie. But they're on the margins of society, and that's tough to make to play marginal and sympathetic. You can get into bathos very, very easily and just think that because I'm somebody who has a disability or whatever, that you're automatically going to sympathize and I don't have to build a character. But they don't. And Preminger makes sure they work their asses off. It's beautiful. Charles Bronson in Messenger of Death. Pretty standard Bronson film from the 80s. Getting
toward the middle, back end of that run.
The only reason to watch this is J. Lee Thompson directing it, who really kind of brings it. Then we've also got John Mills and Luciana Paluzzi in A Black Veil for Lisa, which is a pretty great kind of Euro noir. From 1968, a little bit of French New Wave, a little bit of Hollywood noir on the tail end. It's a good film. This is I'm going to actually save that for the end. This is a movie that I just absolutely have no love for, but I know some people do. Saved, with Mandy Moore. Interesting because it's got Macaulay Culkin and Patrick Fugit in it. This is essentially kind of based in fact about kids that go to these like
those camps,
those religious Reformation camps. It's a little bit hokey. It's a little bit exploitative. Wild in the Streets, great classic from 1968, totally of the era.
Am I nuts, or is Richard Pryor in that movie?
Richard Pryor is in this movie.
That's like his first or second movie. Yeah, it's like he plays like the drummer. That's a psychedelic movie. That movie,
freaky movie,
runs on the over-the-air broadcast network called, I think it's called The Works.
Oh, really?
Or something like that. I watch that movie all the time.
Great snapshot of the era. Really, really interesting movie. It's Christopher Jones and Shelley Winters who essentially star in this. But yes, Richard Pryor,
counterculture film.
Harold Holbrook, Larry Bishop, Hal Holbrook, Ed Begley even
somehow
pops in
Larry
there.
Bishop is already 40 in that movie.
Isn't that funny?
No matter what happens, he's already.
But this was a great Sam Arkoff, James Nicholson, American International production. And it wound up in the Orion Library, which put it over with MGM, and that's how Olive was able to put this one out. And boy, did they have a gem there. The Pride and the Passion, really, really cool film. Cary Grant, Frank Sinatra, Sophia Loren, worth seeing just because the three of them are in it. That alone carries this film. This is from 1957. It's a bit of an unusual story to stick those three in because it's Napoleonic era, and those are three people that sort of don't really belong in the Napoleonic era. I don't really think of Cary Grant and Frank Sinatra as Napoleonic.
Yeah.
Sophia Loren, I'll buy her in any era.
Yeah, she has the nose anyway.
But yeah, exactly. But it's worth seeing. It's a weird, kind of strange Stanley Kramer artifact from the past. That's worth it. And then lastly, here's the other Olive stuff that's worth talking about this week. American Ninja.
Oh, yeah, baby.
American Ninja 2.
Golem Globus, baby.
American Ninja 3. And American Ninja 4.
American Ninja, that first one is 1985, 30 years ago, plus 30 plus, in case you're thinking about it.
Absolutely. And
Michael Dudikoff.
What's interesting here is that Michael Dudikoff made all of these, and Steve James, after the third one, said, I am so done, I'm out. And David Bradley steps in and picks up the slack in American Ninja 4. Steve James, I give him credit. He knew when to quit.
Yeah. Quit altogether, too, didn't he?
But these movies have a weird... Sam Furstenberg directed
I'm not going to pretend like I was not a ridiculous fan of those movies 30 years ago. I watched them, but they were bad then. But there was a whole run of those there was a whole run of those things.
Yeah, they're terrible, but they're fun and nostalgic.
Yeah, so, what are you going to do? I got a couple over here.
This is the Twilight Time stack.
Twilight Time, the Zelik being the first one in the stack.
I love Zelik.
How did Twilight Time end up with Zelik?
Okay, so this is the deal.
Twilight Time, Orion, obviously, originally Orion.
Twilight Time, like Olive Films, they basically will go, and they've been mining the libraries of the studios that they have relationship with, and they license this stuff for limited 3,000 copy runs. And you go to TwilightTimeMovies.com, and that's where you can order them. And they've just been releasing all the Woody Allen stuff on Blu-ray because they frankly are doing limited runs. And my guess is that they just do a better. People now expect the Woody Allen stuff from Twilight Time, so they associate the brand with Woody Allen, and they're able to find these movies more effectively.
Are they coming out under the MGM banner?
No,
nothing. Just strictly Twilight.
Strictly Twilight Time. This is Twilight Time's baby right now. So they've been releasing a lot of great Woody stuff, and this is the one that I'm just in love with. I think this might be my favorite Twilight Time release of all time.
Well,
I just love this
Blu-ray,
movie.
Obviously, isolated score on this one. And of course it's Zelik, so
it's great.
Zelik.
This is Woody doing the mock documentary thing, and it's
just
so unbelievably funny, and it's such a great character.
Really, classic Woody. Has a new movie out right now, Cafe Society, which I enjoyed.
I have not seen yet.
I thoroughly enjoyed Cafe Society. It's a very sharp movie. It's Woody being reflective again, as he has been being for the last, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. But it's also dark Woody. That movie, Cafe Society, is set right before the war in the 30s here in L.A. and in New York.
Yep.
And, dude, Cafe Society is bullet in the head violent. Like at least 6 people get shot in the head in Cafe Society, and Woody don't cut away. You also gave me The Black Stallion Returns over here, which, of course, is another extraordinary film. This is also Twilight Time, of course, another isolated score with the original trailer. You know these films, of course.
It's not the same as the original, but it's still a really great sequel.
It's a Zoetrope film, and Francis is executive producing that film, so it's a ridiculously beautiful film, is what it is. Miss Sadie Thompson in 3D. You want to grab the game here there. This is a neat film as well. Again, special features include the isolated music score. I love I got to tell you, I love the isolated music scores. I wish more releases in every genre would have an isolated music score. Audio commentary with film historians David Del Valle and Steve Peros, and that's Miss Sadie Thompson in 3D. Twilight Time, Russia House. Now, this is not one of your better John le Carré adaptations and releases. This is Fred Shepsey. Talk to Fred. He had a lovely little movie out with
Clive Owen and
Juliette Binoche about the teaching.
Yep.
Talk to Fred for that movie. He's fantastic. First, Fred, All of Me and Roxanne and all that kind of stuff. Look, Michelle Pfeiffer is the thing that this film has to offer. She was absolutely extraordinary in the film, doing that Russian accent. And this is like 1993 or something.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery in the film, but not the top.
Such an '80s pairing, Sean Connery and Michelle Pfeiffer. Makes me swoon a little.
A little goofy. Dr. Butcher. Is this from Twilight? This is not from Twilight Time.
No.
We moved into
I got the last 2 Twilight Times over
here. You knocked those off now.
Yeah, so the last 2 Twilight Times, Hound of the Baskervilles, the version that features Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and of course Andre Morel. Really, one of the this has been done a few times. This is certainly one of the less faithful, but one of the more impressive ones. This is from the Hammer Film Collection. When Hammer was, willing to do a few pretty awesome movies once in a while. They've that resurrection of Hammer has stagnated lately. And then the last Twilight Time is a fascinating artifact. The Gang's All Here. This is a Technicolor film by Busby Berkeley from 1943, which is this is one of a peculiar kind of film that they did, especially in the 1940s, in the war years, where a lot of these movies were almost like Starpalooza showcases, where there'd be next to no plot, but we're just going to line up all of our actors and we're going to put them in a movie that people will pay for, which will basically be an extended commercial for our brand. The people that the actors people associate with us, and it'll set us up to release other movies. And that's kind of, in a sense, what this is. It's a really peculiar movie, but it's got so many great performances in it. Carmen Miranda, Benny Goodman. I mean, on and on and on. It's really, really great. Nicely directed. Just a really fun, weird 1940s effort. It's definitely worth checking out. It is The Gang's All Here. Lots of great music. Lots of great fun. Busby Berkeley at his very best, and in Technicolor.
no less. A Cohen Media Group film. I don't. You happen to be. This is the Last Diamond, Eric Barbier.
Yeah.
You didn't happen to do the commentary on this, did you?
No, not that one.
This is not you. This is a great film. It's a diamond heist movie. And I always dug this movie. It's pretty cool. This particular one, no, you're not on this 2014 drama. And it has all kinds of neat stuff on it, including an interview with Barbier and the stars, including Yvonne Attal.
I got some Warner Archive stuff I will move through here and let you know what you can expect in the Warner Archive collection, because they've got some really good stuff, especially a couple of Blu-rays. But first, the DVD-Rs, the manufacturer on demand's most recently released Bruce Willis in one of his most underrated performances in Norman Jewison's In Country.
Yeah. I loved that movie at the time.
Yeah.
I love that movie because it's a Vietnam movie that doesn't take place in Vietnam at all. It's all here. It's called In Country, but the entire movie takes place here. And he's just this returned Vietnam vet who's going through it. And it's
that's
really,
it. That's the way to do it. And not such a bad James Horner score. And I will also say co-written by Frank Pearson, who recently passed away, former president of the Writers Guild, and a longtime neighbor of mine.
Oh, really?
Used to see him drive by all the time. And saw him once at like a homeowners association meeting, and that was the first time I realized he was a neighbor. Went to this. Actually, believe it or not, went to a homeowners association meeting, and this is years and years and years ago, at Mark Hamill's house. I'm name dropping like a scumbag right now. So I go to a homeowners association meeting at Mark Hamill's house, and Frank Pearson is there, and I say, "Oh, hello, Frank. Haven't seen you since we." No. I mean, it was surreal. It's like you're at Mark Hamill's house, and there's Frank Pearson, and of course I'm like a teenager at the time, and I'm like, it freaks you out a little bit. So
who's the girl in that? I forget who's the girl in that.
The girl is Emily Lloyd.
Emily Lloyd.
Emily Lloyd.
She sort of went away there.
She did go away, and she was such the big thing, right?
Yeah, for a minute.
Deanna Durbin, It's a Date, with Walter Pidgeon and Kay Francis, directed by Joe Pasternak. This is just another wonderful classic Hollywood black and white, lovely movie from the golden era. It's a musical comedy. It's fun. It's got some good songs. It's got some good performances. It's it's not a great film, but it's a good, solid film. It's really representative of the era, and all these people are fun. Actually, Joe Pasternak produced it. William Sider directed it. I take it back. Norman Krasna is the real talent here. Norman Krasna wrote so many great screenplays and just really fun. Fred Zinnemann.
Oh, Fred.
Made another one of his underrated films later in his career, 5 Days, One Summer, with Sean Connery, and introducing Betsy.
That's like the early 80s.
Yeah. Introducing. This is right near the end of his career. This is one of those Lad Company things when it's like the Blade Runner area, right? Yeah. Betsy Brantley, and also introducing Lambert Wilson, the French actor, who of course we all know now from Matrix movies, where he's much, much older. Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox.
I did the junket for that too.
Woody Harrelson.
Talk about dropping crap. I did like the junket for every movie. This in the early 90s.
Michael J. Fox getting his his feature career going roughly around the same time as Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Michael Caton Jones directed this when he had a career going. That was in the 80s. I'm like, what's happened to him too? And then lastly, the two Blu-rays, the Warner Archive Blu-rays. These are coming out more and more, and I can't say enough about them. These are just, every single one of them is a golden must-have. Fred Astaire and Sid Charisse in silk stockings, amazing. I'm going to say it, Tim. It's sacrilege. I know I'm not supposed to say this. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, not the best pairing.
Really?
I'm going to say it right now.
What's the problem?
Fred Astaire was better with, first of all, with Sid Charisse. This is just amazing. This is phenomenal stuff. Sid Charisse is a better dancer than Ginger Rogers. Not a better actress, but a better dancer, by far. I just think Fred wants to lead, and Ginger let him lead. Sid is like, get out of my way, I can dance. and also, come on. And then also, you realize that Fred Astaire, before any of these other partners, Leslie Caron, who apparently was a little bit too good for him and upstaged him, so he didn't want her as a partner anymore, which I think is silly.
He was too old for all those women.
Yeah. And To Have and Have Not, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, speaking of great movie pairings, in the adaptation of the Ernest Hemingway, directed by Howard Hawks. Really just fabulous film. This is as good as it gets. It really is. Just a classic Warner Brothers film in every respect. Hawks, Hemingway, Bogart, Bacall. I don't know how much more. Blu-ray, and some great special features here. A vintage Merry Melodies short called "Bacall to Arms" from 1946, which obviously factors into this. So that's a great extra. It puts you right back in the era. And then also the Lux Radio broadcast of A Love Story, the story of To Have and Have Not, with Bogart and Bacall. So this is great. It's a little bit in the Casablanca vein, but it has its own character and its own guts, and it's just wonderful. And William Faulkner co-wrote the screenplay. So Faulkner doing a screenplay based on Hemingway, and it's great. It's a great movie,
and the dialogue is absolutely extraordinary.
Gorgeous Blu-ray.
I just got one over here, Dr. Butcher, MD. This is one of those sort of late 70s, early 80s gore movies, the zombie Holocaust movies. It's actually pretty neat. This is over 2.5 hours worth of totally uncut Dr. Butcher, MD. This was never my kind of stuff. It comes from Severin Films, but hey, look, if you like the sort of contemporary zombie movies of the current day, you might as well go back to the beginning.
Here's what I will say about that: if you have a movie called Dr. Butcher, you are basically saying to your audience, I'm not going to try and fool you.
Yeah.
This title is what this movie is. It's about Dr. Butcher. If that title appeals to you, you will like this movie. If you're grossed out and you feel like you need to go and take a pill, then don't see this movie. Don't do it. Few other great extras here, and then we're going to get into some Criterion. But we got a couple of great collector's editions that are recently out from the new Shout Select line. Actually, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is...
Which one?
This is the more recent one. This is the Donald Sutherland, Philip Kaufman directed one from 1979?
Is that the one with Jeff Goldblum?
78. Yes, young Jeff Goldblum.
Some of the
and
best
Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy. That's just a fantastic movie.
I think this is in every way the equal to the original. Maybe even it's better. This is Phil Kaufman before he made the jump to the right stuff. This is really, really a terrific film. 1978. Has a great, almost Brian De Palma feel to it, and this is a terrific collector's edition from Shout Factory, and then the one that this is just gold to me. This is absolutely gold. From the Shout Select line, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Yes,
in a fantastic special edition. Jeff Goldblum in this one as well. Directed by W.D. Richter, who has not gone on to have the career he should have.
No, well, W.D. only directed one other movie, I think, not long after that.
What happened?
I don't know.
This is like the cult film of cult films.
He did some writing, though, in the ensuing years, but he only directed one other film.
Well, anyway, this film, look, if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. There's really no way to describe this film other than John Lithgow overacts and gets away with it in the worst possible way. And, Peter Weller, before RoboCop, man, he plays basically how do you put this? It's a rock band / superhero squad.
Yeah. Like, in the middle of an alien invasion.
It's everything. It's this weird genre mashup.
These great sort of dialogue. Character names, Big Boutte, and stop.
My two favorite things in this, I think it was, there's the scene where they're going through the room and there's like I'm not going to give it away, but there's like a thing and he goes, what is that? And he goes, shh, I don't know. Right, it's just this weird eccentric moment, and my favorite thing in the whole movie is the Peter Weller saying, "Remember, no matter where you are,
you are.
That's the best.
Vincent Schiavelli in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Crimes of Passion, Ken Russell film. Ken Russell, man. Mark has some fantastic Ken Russell stories.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ken Russell, is he dead yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he died not long ago, right? Because I remember he was at a thing.
We were supposed to interview him for Stupid for Movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Corey, who does the intros for us now. Corey, this was supposed to be at the Lowe's Hotel during AFM. And I was supposed to be doing the interview. And I got there, and Corey was already there with the crew, the whole Stupid for Movies crew. And Corey looks at me with this angry face, and he says, he won't talk to us. He won't come down. I said, what? It's like they like buzzed up, and it's like click. And I won't get into all the gory details of it, but we never talked to Ken Russell because he just decided the last minute he just whatever.
Well, he was a bit of a sociopath. No matter how you look at it. This was the kind of a neat movie. I remember this movie. This is the early '80s sort of thing about a fashion designer played by Kathleen Turner. When Kathleen Turner was still ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
Another St. Louis girl, by the way. And at night, she was a hooker.
Yeah.
This is, I'm a fashion designer by day, hooker by night.
Aren't they all?
Only in the Ken Russell film, baby.
Only in a Ken Russell film.
That's a double disc Blu-ray set, by the way, with all kinds of neat special edition content on it, including a 2K restoration.
Some compilation stuff here real fast. We got a couple of William Castle double features. For those of you who don't know, William Castle was the exploitation producer for Columbia Pictures, who made exploitation films for the studios. So they were like the indies that, like the little B movies that weren't really B movies. But he pioneered all of those amazing techniques, like, the
shocker in your seat.
Shocking you in your seat, having stuff drop from the ceiling, all of it, like junk that, goes on in the theater that just made the experience even more psychotic. And these are a couple of double features. Homicidal and Mr. Sardonicus on one, and Mr. Sardonicus is actually both of these from 1961. Mr. Sardonicus, actually a really, really interesting film in many, many ways. And then the other double feature is 13 Ghosts and 13 Frightened Girls.
I love 13 Ghosts. That's a real classic.
Yeah, 13 Ghosts from 1960, 13 Frightened Girls from 1963. Both of these also really, really interesting, especially 13 Frightened Girls, which is in color. So that's there. And then a pretty great compilation set from Film Chest. This is a 5-DVD musical collector set from the golden age of musicals. This is a bargain for anybody. I'm amazed at the films that they have on here. Sure, there's a lot of ringers in here, but there's 17 movies on this. And at least half of them are really worth having, and the transfers are not bad. So Film Chest has really given us a bargain here. Of these 17 movies, you get At War with the Army, which is Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, not bad at all. Private Buckaroo, The Road to Bali, Stage Door Canteen, Till the Clouds Roll By, The Fabulous Dorseys, Pied Piper of Hamelin, which is one of my favorites from the era, The Inspector General, Danny Kaye. The Duke is Top's Career Girl. I mean, there's a lot of really great classics here. So it's absolutely worth it to pick this up. If you don't have any of these movies, this is really a great set. 5 DVDs, musical collector set, The Golden Age of Musicals, 17 films from Film Chest.
I got a couple over here. We have New Faces. New Faces was a review series done in CinemaScope in the 50s and 60s. Of Broadway plays and other things that was really sort of fantastic. The intention, of course, was a way to sort of promote these things and get people around the rest of the country who might not have necessarily had an everyday chance to go see theater on Broadway to know about these plays. So if they did come to New York, they would see them. They're fantastic. The neat thing about this is that some of the writers include Mel Brooks and John Cleveland. Some of the performers include Eartha Kitt. I mean, they're really, really, really neat things. So like whatever was sort of happening in the world of Broadway at the time is what these things would be about. This particular one is from 1954 and includes, in fact, Eartha Kitt and Ronnie Graham and Robert Clary and Alice Ghostley doing numbers from a number of fantastic shows, reviews and skits and comedy from the period on Broadway. So that's kind of neat. New Faces of 1954. Done in CinemaScope as well. The Night Visitor I also have here. This is the 19. Let me see, which one is this? This would be the Max von Sydow one. So it's from about early 70s, sometime in the early 70s. It's when this one would have been crime thriller. This is a very, very intense and spellbinding sort of thriller. Max von Sydow, as a young guy, was a captivating guy. He's a captivating guy now. But as a young guy, he was very captivating on the screen. So you're going to want to check out this Blu-ray. It has a commentary track on it from author and filmmaker Bruce G. Hallenbeck.
Nice. All right, Criterion. 5 new Criterion titles. They're all absolutely amazing. Ingrid Bergman, in her own words, this is really just terrific.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. We talked about that on Film Week.
It is. Isn't this great? I mean, it really is. Stig Bjorkman, who directed this, made this amazing documentary, which is almost. I hate even calling it a documentary. It's like a personal. It's like a Valentine in so many ways. I mean, it really is like a personal.
It really is in her own words.
It's all in her own words.
You hear her voice, including some recordings that she made, the images, some of the earliest images of her as young as 15 years old.
Some of her own home movies.
From home movies, yeah.
It's just absolutely beautiful. And Alicia Vikander, now an Oscar winner, narrates it. And it's a wonderful, wonderful look at a screen legend, and with a lot of tremendous extras on it, including more home movies and clips and interviews of archival stuff of Bergman that are all not part of the documentary, but still very much germane to her career. So that's a wonderful and unexpected Criterion release. A Touch of Zen, the great King Hu film. I hope this means that we're going to get a lot more King Hu on Blu-ray. Especially from Criterion. That would be great. King Hu, of course, the Taiwanese filmmaker who made his mark primarily in the 1960s, is kind of the John Ford of the Hong Kong and Taiwanese film industries. Beautifully photographed, amazingly choreographed films that really inspired a whole generation of martial arts and period filmmakers. A Touch of Zen is considered one of his best films. I'd say there's probably 3 that kind of tie. But A Touch of Zen definitely is certainly always one that winds up at people's the top of their lists, and it's one of those journey stories about this young woman who puts on a disguise to I won't give anything away, but she's looking for sanctuary and winds up in finding sanctuary in a certain location, and then there's some conflict that ensues, and it's a little bit like it is very much a Western.
The monks. It's the thing about that movie, because that movie is actually from the early 70s.
Yes,
and which of course was
1971.
Okay, there you go. So it was a sort of a transitional period there.
Yes.
You know what I always thought? The movie that I always
he's already competing with Shaw Brothers movies.
Oh sure,
at this point.
yeah. But you remember the Billy Jack films?
Yes.
I always think about that movie, these movies, in the context of those Billy Jack, particularly that original Billy Jack film.
Yeah. And I always think about it as like Clint Eastwood movies, in many respects. But it is both of those. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it has a good, the bad, and the ugly quality to it, and I think it's a good analogy. But it's a lot of great surprises in that movie. Touch of Zen, classic King Hu. Night and Fog. Is out on Blu-ray at long last. The Alain Resnais classic from 1959, which is like all Alain Resnais films, it's a little bit impenetrable,
mysterious and ambiguous.
But it's just hypnotic, and it's as a film looking back on the horrors of the Nazi period and French occupation. It's just haunting. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Again, loaded with extras, which includes an interview with Joshua Oppenheimer, the director, a 1994 audio interview with Alain Resnais, a Face au Fantôme, which is a 2009 documentary with looking at the Holocaust in general, and as pertains to the release of this film. I mean, really, really good stuff. And then Muriel, otherwise known as The Time of Return. This is a much less well-known film from 1963, also by Alain Resnais, which came in the wake of Last Year at Marienbad, and it is, I think, in many respects better than Marienbad. It's a little more accessible, but it's kind of it's not really a sequel. It's almost like a continuation of the concept. deals with romance in a very similar kind of dreamlike and kind of inaccessible way. But this one in particular also kind of deals with France's war in Algeria, and that very much casts a shadow on it in the same way that World War II casts a shadow over Night and Fog.
I would even stick Hiroshima, Mon Amour. That was like before Marienbad, right?
Yeah.
I'd put them all in a
continuum.
In a continuum.
Yeah. I agree. Tim, somehow we always wind up, wherever we are on this podcast or on radio, we always wind up talking about Terrence Malick.
I swear.
You and I have been, by sheer coincidence, on Film Week together for each of the last 3 or 4 Terrence Malick movies.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And the conversation actually goes all the way back to this Thin Red Line, I think. Another junket that I did. And here we are with the New World. Which would have been so after the Thin Red Line, which was 90. You would know better.
2001, I
something
guess
like that, right? And then he took another little gap.
Actually, Thin Red Line was 90. I'm going to say 98.
Yeah, something. And he took another little gap, and then this.
Yeah.
Which I know is one of your favorite films.
I love The New World, but here's the interesting thing. This is the director's cut of The New World, the director-approved edition. And the director's cut is 172 minutes here. Now, here's what's interesting about this, and this also includes the 135-minute theatrical cut and the 150-minute first cut. Now, that's what I think is interesting, because I want to point out to people the 172-minute cut has been out before. The 135-minute theatrical cut has been out before. The 150-minute first cut of the film has not been out before on Blu-ray.
The original theatrical?
No, this is the first cut.
Oh,
first
cut.
First cut. Did you see the LA Film Critic award screening for this when they screened it for us at the Clarity Screening Room?
No, that would have been before I was a member of the group.
Okay, that was the 150-minute first cut that they went back and edited by 15 minutes and then released theatrically. I still have my LAFCA DVD screener, 2 discs, 2 DVD-Rs of that cut, because it's never been released before in any form. And I'm like, this is going to be gold. I'm not going to let go of this. No one has seen this cut before. It's out now. They finally. But that's the thing. Nobody. They're talking about this. Oh, the director's cut.
No, there are 3 cuts. Only
cuts.
members of LAFCA and a few other groups actually saw that.
So effectively, you do get you get every transfer, every cut of this film now, which is pretty great. In any case, Emmanuel Lubezki, who's now a back-to-back Oscar winner, and who's just who legend now, the greatest cinematographer of all time, who of course did. This is effectively when his relationship with Malick began. It was
Jack
on this
Fisk and a few other folks whose names we see regularly now.
And tons of interviews and other stuff on here. I mean, if you love this film like I do, this is nuts. There's more to this than you'll spend hours. I mean, look, it's
James Horner's score.
Really, probably the last great James Horner score. I really do love. I mean, I criticize James Horner a lot, but I really love this score. So. And then let's see a couple other real quick things before we cut out here. Some Asian titles that I should make mention of. This is an unusual little thing. I said this years ago that in China the movies that they were just using Hollywood films to build a lot of theaters so they could release their own crappy Hollywood knockoffs into theaters. And next thing you know, we'd have these Chinese movies making ridiculous amounts of money in China, and we'd never see them over here. Case in point, The Mermaid. Stephen Chow, whose early films I really love, made a killing with The Mermaid. This is very much more in the vein of Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle. His more recent effects inflected stuff. His earlier films are very much about Cantonese puns and more kind of local humor, but more deadpan stuff. All this CGI stuff. I don't think this is a very good movie, but it's clearly a very polished film. It's much more interesting if you're Chinese. I think it is not. the humor in it does not travel very well, but this thing made gargantuan amounts of money in China, and if you like modern Chinese comedy, and if you like where Stephen Chow's career has gone in this more cartoonish period, you'll probably enjoy The Mermaid. It is not like Splash. It is like Splash crossed with a John Woo film.
Oh, really?
With the humor of like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. It's very bizarre, but I guess it's maybe worth a look for Stephen Chow devotees. And then lastly is Female Prisoner Scorpion, the complete collection from the Arrow collection. If you know this Japanese line of exploitation films, you are just in really, really good. Female Prisoner Scorpion is not new to Blu-ray or DVD, but the entire series is. So what we get here is Female Prisoner number 71 Scorpion, Female Prisoner Scorpion Jailhouse 41, Female Prisoner Scorpion Beast Stable, Female Prisoner Scorpion number 71's Grudge Song.
They must have something to do with all those early 70s cage team.
Well, yeah, this is
the big dollhouse.
All that stuff. It's like all the women's spy movies crossed with the women in prison movies, and transitioned over to the Japsploitation milieu. It's groovy, it's funky, it's 60s, it's 70s. It's a lot of fun. It's really violent.
It is not Orange is the New Black.
No, it is not.
Nothing like that.
It is campy. It is fun. It is completely unhinged. The Japanese made this particular genre of Japanese movies is really just completely off the wall. So I do recommend this for cult film fans who have been waiting for this complete series to come out, and it has not until now. That is really, really a godsend. This is something I did not expect. So Arrow, I applaud Arrow for releasing that entire series. It's a lot of fun. Nice throwback to an era. So, Tim, that's it. We've wrapped up this extra long show, and we're covering for a couple of weeks here. We'll come back in about a little over a week and a half, and let Mark reveal the whatever drama he chooses to reveal. It should be interesting. All right.
He should do it with movies.
Yes.
Just watch this movie.
And
it'll lay out what I've been dealing with.
Absolutely. All right. It's all good. We thank you guys for being patient with us, and have a great time watching the rest of the Olympics, which is what I think I'm going to do this next week. All right. We're out.
Bye-bye.